Hello and welcome back to the channel and another CC Design Contest playthrough, and we're playing Littlerock Drive by Digital Bunny. Now Digital is all about pure quirkiness and interest, and his courses are always engaging. Certainly you may not always like what's going on, but you can't really ignore it. Like that sort of off the wall stuff. So his best was Sussex Downs in the World Cup, which got all the way to the final. It was an awesome course which just captured downland England golf in a nutshell and was just a blast to play. So kind of really excited to see him back in the designer, and this is different. So very overcast, kind of moody lighting, and we've got all of these dunes, and like this is a different kind of bunny course. He doesn't normally go coastal. He normally goes like inland, kind of maybe parkland sorts of style. So this is really ramping up the fun. Kind of taking me a bit back to Wood Duck Dunes, which was amazing in terms of like just fun and off the wall, and so he will always try something completely different. Now, straight off the bat, there's a lot of work going on here with the big dunes, and it looks very intimidating. So, which we like big cliffs, like kind of, I guess, abandon-ish, maybe. Hard to tell, but that would be abandoned Cape Kidnappers sort of stuff, maybe. I don't know. It's a fun mix of things. Um, the lighting really makes me think of Bandon. I love the way you've raised the plot up to just get that little glimpse of the beach down there. Like that looks awesome. The scale of the cliffs is really good. Like the scale of everything's pretty big here. And we have a clubhouse down here, and the clubhouse exists. This is not something we're too worried about or making really focusing on too much, and that's fine. The bunny courses are almost always just purely about the golf. There's a driving range. And there's our first tee. So we hike up to the top of the dune, get our first tee shot. Now it's the second time I've played this, and yeah, you can see the texture color and then what the lighting makes them. So really interesting how you can play with the textures. So first hole is, I think, potentially drivable. Certainly, I remember my first round I had a tailwind and I got very, very close. So I will say off the bat, I've played one round here. It's not close to CC difficulty, but it is fun, and I actually did shoot pretty well on. I think people will consider it being more difficult than it is, but it's not CC. But that's fine. So with this one, you've got a short par four, very segmented green, kind of narrow and running away, and running away. Yeah, a little bit. So I think I played the pin here on my first playthrough, and it's kind of fun to roll a putt into, but it is like it's pretty hard to hold it near that pin. I think the green slopes are probably a little bit severe, and when we're playing with very downhill elevation and wind, you're asking guys to factor in an awful lot of things. But if I go too far this way, I've got a trickier pitch than if I maybe go this way, so it's making me consider whether I can just about carry it down to there. Give it a go. I'll die wondering. And there's a bailout rock, so go on. There we go. We just about make it to that little bit of fairway, and suddenly I think I've got a bit of an easier shot. Now, one thing that I think you'll find tricky with the lighting is it's hard to see the undulations you put in, which is always tough. To there. There we go. That works out pretty nicely. So, I mean, definitely doable, although you kind of need the longest driver, and it pushes it a bit more in that direction. Laying up if you're not quite on the longest driver, but like a fun, memorable hole, and definitely a bold opening to the round. I think I might have just put a bit more forgiveness in the landing area for those who maybe don't have that longest driver. Okay, this one definitely very visually intimidating off the tee. It is kind of, you just hit driver and then hit your elevated approach shot to the on the second. Second's kind of reminiscent of Pine Valley in a way. Maybe we're drawing from that just a little. Do you find it a bit odd that a lot of the fairway's obscured by the trees, because feels like you're hitting a fade round it and you don't really get any sort of benefit for doing so? Just kind of find the fairway, but certainly succeeding on the intimidation factor. I guess the further you lay back the more you're kind of, I think with the distance of how uphill it is, I think probably always hitting a full wedge into this shot, but I guess you can lay back for a fuller wedge as well. Very similar to the second at Pine Valley now that I think about it. And we've gone down all the way into this little bowl. Planting, the grasses kind of suffer from being in the moody lighting. And I wonder whether the moody lighting was a late change. Because the problem is in this sort of lighting, all of the grasses look the same and it just takes away a lot of what you can do. Oh, it did try. Green speed's at 154. This amount of slope on this green kind of is, it's possibly a little bit too fast. I might lose, but I think, I don't know, this little tier, if you've got a pin up here, that's maybe a bit tricky. This one's fine. The one down here is probably fine. The one up here or here is fine. It's just that little one. I think might be a bit close. But it's another short par 4. I'm okay with it. And very different to the first short par 4. I think you've used elevation change probably, I'd say, better on that hole than the first. The first was that huge drop from the tee, which is, yeah, which we're doing again here. And this feels like it's kind of asking a very similar challenge to the first. You're going to have people who hate the pond, you know that, but it works. It's all laid out in front of you. You know what it is and where it is. Again, the trees getting in the way of the safe layup. There's kind of no way to avoid taking a hazard on this hole, which is probably not, like, that's where this is missing on CC difficulty for me. I kind of think the aggressive plays are okay. You can pull that off, but it's the what if you can't. Because if I bail away from the bunkers, then I'm stuck behind trees, which I can't get over, and I'm having to hook something around. If I hit the bunkers, I've got a bunker shot over water. If I'm playing driver or 3-wood here, then I'm running out of fairway. I've got bunker, I've got water. Like, there's no really safe way to play this hole. I'm gonna go for. No, I'm just not sure I can reach. I'm gonna give it a go because I'm interested. Oh yeah, you really can. And then I'm kind of stitched myself up because there's no way of holding it on the green. I think it's if it's asking a lot of me to work out the elevation change, and like, yeah, I probably can do that much better. I think your beginner guys on CC are going to find this really tough. I reckon that is going to be the most. That's where this course is going to fall down. I reckon, based on the first few holes, will be difficulty. I say based on the first few holes. Obviously, I've played it through once already. Kind of know where we're going with this, but I did find it more scoreable than maybe you might expect. Love seeing the other green just next to it. That's always a cool touch. Like, bring the routing back. Yeah, we don't really have a layup option here either. This is driver or else, because 3-wood into there. It's just very penal if you don't hit position A1. And I'd love to see fairway all the way out here and like have that fairway cut in here, go all the way over that hill, and then you've given people loads of space in which to land. But there's kind of no point in any of this fairway. Like, you're leaving an up. Well, it's par 5. Let's say if I did lay down here, I'm then hooking around some trees to a tight fairway with bunkers and a landing zone. Like, I think you've thought about the position A1, but I'm not sure we've really considered what if people can't get there. And even to hold the fairway, I need to hit a bit of a partial with some draw. Like, it's asking a lot. And then we've got a really tucked pin. Now, granted, reachable par 5. Funky green. I'm liking the green complex, and you always chuck in some sort of kind of geometric style shapes. Again, bit of a miss on difficulty for me with this one because I just don't know if I've got any real. And the shot value we're asking to get the ball close to this pin is huge. To other pins, probably a little bit easier. And I don't mind making it difficult on certain pins. Just that general mix of like, where are we building in forgiveness into this hole? Because it wasn't on the tee shot. It's not on this shot. Gonna need a friendly bounce. Yeah, and even there, I mean, it's kind of died a little bit. Maybe I could have gone more straight at it. A good round so far. Like I said on the when I played it first time round, I found it more forgiving than it looked. But I think you have to be hitting tempo. If you're off your tempo on this course, you are absolutely dead. Hole 5, short par 3. Again, we're asking for managing elevation change, which it is a thing that CC players really struggle with. I like the benched in green and that you can't really see very much of it. Like, this is a scary looking tee shot, but it's actually just a wedge shot. Hilarious that there's fairway down there. I'm a big fan. Also a nice way to avoid planting, but I think it works well. Not my best swing, but hopefully with I think the wind and elevation are about cancelling each other. Maybe not quite. And I'm not even really trying. Yeah, this is why I think that you change the lighting later on, because there are different grass types here. Because we've got this, like the high render one. We've got some flowers and things. I'm going to bet that this was a late decision. And yeah, there's that boreal style grass, which I recognise, which is that hydra one. I'm going to reckon you decided late on to change it. Maybe designed in 21 and brought it over. Because it could just be that you hated the way the trees are. Oh, I remember this one. See, there's lots about this I like the framing of this approach shot, that's really wild and fun. But if I bail back here, I've suddenly got a bit of water in play if I really mishit it. I'm potentially blocked out by trees and downhill, so I kind of have to go for it anyway. And it feels like the only position I can play to is this area of the fairway, or I'm just stuffed on the approach shot. Which is where I think we can, again, for any type of course, but particularly CC, we've got to build in that forgiveness for people. It's not necessarily the most exacting shot to hit. It's just that we need forgiveness built in for people who can't hit that shot. And then this one is kind of anyone's guess where that's ending up. I think lob wedge. Actually got the right club, just didn't trust my tempo. And then the green itself is like, I'd say you got 2 good pin positions on here. 3 and 4 are probably in the same sorts of locations, right? You've probably got one here and one here. I do not know where the 4th pin on this green is. I like it. I just think probably I'd have created some more space here. Or like soften this slope or something. There's more we could have done with this one. But the concept of the hole is really fun. Like that approach shot is one you'll remember. Three under, and I feel like I'm playing really bloody well. Okay, hole 7, R5, which we like. I've never been a fan of roads cutting across fairways, but it happens. Again, I would like to. I guess it's probably how it integrates with these tees. Probably like to see a fairway widen out a little bit, move some of these tees this way a touch. Okay, we hit across the previous. Oh, I think the corridor for this one's gotten a little tight, which is why it's squeezed. And again, it's absolutely fine if you hit the fairway and if you have tempo, but I've been having a bad day on this course, which has happened on other playthroughs. We would be struggling. The technical stuff is pretty solid. The bunkers are a little deep, I would say. Yeah, a little deep, but not too bad. Certainly some of the better bunkers in the contest. Again, we're asking for me to land here and roll up, because if I'm going long, I'm probably not keeping the ball on the green. So I think I'm laying up. And then the layup's challenging, certainly to hit to this little neck of fairway. I might as well go down to here, and suddenly I'm hitting an 8-iron somewhere up there, which feels like a really boring second shot, but I just don't. So it's kind of playing strategically, but I kind of felt I was a bit forced into it because it's for it is tough to kind of make people want to lay up. I think you probably wanted to offer a bit more forgiveness around here, and just the surfaces all being a bit wider generally would have helped. I think the green itself is fine, it's just the fairway around it. Oh, come on, wind. But if you did lay up, you're kind of rewarded with this little punch bowl, which means that's about as far away as I'd ever be on that approach. And it's a pretty easy birdie if you lay up. So again, I think you can think your way strategically around it. It's more kind of feel pushed into some of those decisions rather than necessarily choosing them. Really good looking par 3 here. Framing's great. Lighting works really nicely. Love seeing that tree on the coast that we're probably working out to. The tree line on the end looks good. A little bit of something to break it up here. And the whole, this fairway maybe looks a little low compared to the green, and like, yeah, maybe we drew from Sand Valley a bit as well. If so, I think fairways kind of like a bit wider in places. Feels like there's a lot of Mike Strantz in this as well. Well, I feel like I can say that for pretty much every bunny course. I'll sit down. But the light, my light rough, I'm fairway. The fairway cut round the green's pretty generous. Do we not have light rough, or have I been missing that? That would be another. I'll keep an eye on that one. Wasn't good chip. Okay, 3 under still feels like pretty good shooting. Okay. Yeah, we're absent light rough, which when we go with the huge elevation change and the thin fairways and, well, I guess the wind I've got is part of it, but and the heavily contoured greens, like, this becomes very tricky. Kind of as I said with Cascada, like, if you're going with no light rough on fairway on CC, you got to go really wide, and you've got to be very forgiving elsewhere because it's so punitive if you miss the fairways. Thankfully, my tempo's been phenomenally good so far. Slide hill lie. I will say I'm not sure. I feel like the strategy on this one's more just approach shot rather than tee shot. I don't think there's that much to the tee shot. Kind of with most of them. I'm honest. There's the tempo. And this course, I kind of feel like most of the tee shots are just set up shots, really. Which, like, obviously is part of their purpose. Okay, to top it off, we've got a bit of a crown pin, which is breaking away that way, that way, that way, that way. Like, we're just defending par a little too vigorously with this one, I think. Yeah, I tried to hit it through the break. That's on me. Back-to-back bogeys. Shame. It's been such a good front nine. Yeah, I mean, again, I can't really lay up. I guess I could go down this fairway. If I'm laying up, actually, I'm going down the other fairway. And in fact, I think the other fairway probably gives me a better shot in. It's long, though. This is kind of what happens when the corridors are pretty close together, and this green's really severe. I think if I'm coming at it from this angle, the fairway apron here is kind of, the runoff's not taking it any further than about here, and like it just looks a little bit silly. You've basically made an island green. I either join it up here and it just about works, widen it to the bunker, give a little bit more forgiveness, or just leave it. Yeah, 3-iron into this green feels difficult. I mean, if I'd hit down this fairway, yeah, I have a shorter shot. Not by miles. Yeah. I mean, I kind of chanced it, but playing it again, I probably, I don't know. I just feel hitting to that pin from this side of the fairway is really tough with the mound in front of it, and it's a tiny tier, and it's placed really close to this tier. I just felt if I go this side of it, my approach, I'm not two putting. I'd kind of rather be here. That needs to sit hard, and now we've gone along of it in 2, 3 even. I think this is where the course starts to show its teeth. Like, you have 3 bogeys in a row. Yeah, I've been a little out of position with them. Planting in that picture looks really good, by the way. Like the bushes, mix of bushes and grasses, I think the density looks great. Okay, blind tee shot. Now I remember my first playthrough, I got blocked out behind these trees and absolutely sliced the hell out of a 9-iron and actually hold out for eagle, which is a really good shot that I remember clearly, very vividly. But it kind of shows like those trees are coming into play probably a little bit too much. And we have cart path in the middle of the fairway again, which I guess you could reach. Just looks a bit visually clunky. But what I did like, the reason I hold out was because I landed it up this kicker slope, and I think there was another pin just about here, because I don't think I'm playing the same pin as last time. And it just hit the kicker slope beautifully and rolled in. Front to back green on this part is with a false front, I think is something I'd really avoid. Like, false front on its own, you've got to allow people to stand to run past it. I can think of a couple of exceptions. Third at Royal Melbourne West is the main one where it's got a little swale in front. But even then, you can land a pitch shot and didn't really stop it. I think this one's all like running away pretty hard. Front pin here is going to be very difficult. As it is, with the elevation, that's going probably another 10, 53 maybe. It's landing about there and rolling out. It's probably the club and off the downslope. Oh, or then you completely miss it and okay. And then we've got this sort of recovery shot, which is, yeah, it's all just, it's very, very tough. And that's, you've just missed the difficulty level by, unfortunately, I'd say a pretty significant margin. And that's the thing that's going to hurt it, because I love this course if it had a bit more width and a bit more forgiveness around the greens and on the greens, and just more places to bail out off the tee. It's just really challenging when you're not, as you can see from the last 4 holes. Like, if you make a little mistake, you are really punished. There's not a lot, and CC is all about helping people make pars and birdies where they might not otherwise. A little ode to Spyglass Hill, I think, here. Yeah, this one does have some layout zones built in, but not as easy to get to. I think do I want to take my chances with a wedge shot? Probably. So, I mean, this one is that I love I'm really becoming a fan of quirky green shapes and like narrow and smaller greens, because they do put a premium on approach shots and like make you think twice about really going for it. Like, see Riviera and its 10th, or the Spyglass 4th. This one's possibly a little severe for CC, and there's not really, but I like the idea. So in a lot of these holes where I can say I really like the idea, it's just, there we go. Cool view from here, and like introduces your cliffside holes that we haven't reached yet, which are always fun. It's a nice way to do it. Okay, back to -1 after our heady heights of 4 under at one point. Okay, 13, long par 4, which has a green cut off, but it does have a big kind of Redan style kicker slope, so that works pretty well. Oh, I bailed out. Right. Quit on the tee shot. Okay, so I can't reach the green, which means I don't get the chance to play that really fun approach shot. Which means I'm going to take an unplayable because I want to hit that shot. Obviously, it's not how I play in real life, and like, if you hit this bunker, you're not reaching the green in 2. We overcompensate. So that's a real shame, and it's heavy rough, and it is a not a trivial tee shot, which means you will get people who are having to do this sort of thing on approach shots. Oh, and then we're rolling through again, and we're just going to make a hash of it. Yeah, kind of again, it's not really a CC course. And I don't think it is going on CC. I knew I wasn't making that, but didn't want to have a flyer. And I believe it's going on plat, where pushing up the conditions will work pretty well for it. I'd be interested to see your 4-pin positions here, because this one's going to be really, really difficult. Anything in the middle is tough, because like getting it to go off the kicker slope and stop there is impossible. I'm kind of wondering whether you design the greens in 2K21 and did the planting in 2K21, because I feel like that would explain the lighting and the green decisions, because the greens play so differently in this game to how they did in the last one. 2 over. Oh well, we're kind of back to, I guess, where we should be. The long par 3, which is a bit of a punch bowl and has some interesting slopes we like. Again, I think another legacy of 21, like this slope, it's near a pin, is pretty much a no-no in this game. That's technically an illegal pin because it's yellow in the 9 box, which we've had to bring back for the game because of really how difficult it plays. It was only a matter of time before the tempo went. Really cool green site nestled into the dunes. Like, I kind of feel like I keep harping on the difficulty, but that really is the issue with this course. Like, everything else I love. I think it's a really fun environment. I'm maybe not the biggest fan of the lighting, but I understand it. Yeah, just the decisions on width and kind of where we're and greens and light rough is what's really hurting it for me. Closing stretch is also bonkers in terms of difficulty from what I recall. So yeah, we've got this green tucked out on a precipice, and like I like that you've given us a big green so that you can pop pins right at the corners. Like, that's fun. The cliffside looks pretty good. I think the lighting probably helps you here in kind of papering over the cracks of some of the planting and the rocks and the logs and how they work together. I suspect in different lighting that would look less good, but that's not a knock. That's more just a kind of see what we're doing. I find it interesting that we're defaulted to 3-wood off the tee, because I think that's a prudent play, but it leaves a hell of a long shot in to a pin that I really can't access, because this slope on the front I would definitely be losing. Yeah, I don't think I can get here. And because there's no fairway here, I can't even think about landing it short and rolling it on and down. It's just taking my medicine and sucking up the 30-foot putt. Really. 23 feet, but it's just get it near the pin and stop it, really. I did very well. You can see how little you have to touch that. The mist down here, missed it with the mouse. The mist down in the background over those hills on the far side of the coast looks so good. I remember this one. Yeah, so again, we're kind of hitting 3-wood. This is taking driver out of our hands. We can't hit it at all. So it's 3-wood down to here. Again, the tee shot's kind of like a just hit it or else. And then the green's elevated and propped up here. Like, certainly a visually, definitely a resting tee shot, playability wise. I think it does very much for me, unfortunately. It's just kind of hit it here, then hit it here. There's a big backstop, which I guess does provide a little bit of forgiveness. But like, I can see CC guys hitting some very difficult shots on this one. Yeah, certainly not my favourite hole on the course. Oh, look, there we go. We got very lucky off that rock. I was trying to go for the backstop as well. And yeah, again, we're into the heavy rough, which doesn't really bring in much forgiveness. And I'm up in the middle, didn't get to the carry, and now I've got a really downhill putt. Just don't. The problem I really have with the course, I guess, for CC, but also just generally, it just perfect shot or bust, really. It's kind of penal in that sort of design as a result, rather than like the kind of strategic. And if you looked at Sussex Downs, it gave you room to play in different directions and approach holes differently. And I don't really think this one does it so much. More, there are a couple of holes that do. Okay, so this one drivable par 4, but you are taking on all the risk in the world to go for it, which is pretty crazy. Some of the green slopes really work. I think this being the high point is a little. I don't know. I don't know if this necessarily integrates the land as well as it maybe could. It feels like everything should be dropping down here, and having this as a high point feels a little bit awkward. I do like the texture use here and how you're getting rid of the heavy rough in places as well. That really adds to it. I do have options to play strategically on this one. I can play down here and play for a full wedge into that, which I think might be the play. Or I can play 3-wood, I guess, or like a partial driver. I mean, it is kind of an option, but that's as risky, I'd say, as going for the green, really. If I miss on the green, like my dispersion circle for here doesn't take me into absolute death too much. My dispersion circle down here, I bring in a miss left and a miss short, and those are probably less forgiving. Kind of think I'm talking myself into going for it. Slow might help. And we've got a false front to negotiate, which, I mean, this might just stun in there and roll up. I mean, I can't ask for much more than that. Just a foolhardy decision. Like, it's a fun shot, don't get me wrong. I'm just not sure I've necessarily got enough persuading me to lay up, and I think that's a key part of a drivable par 4. There we go. Oh, come on, back to +1. We can make it to level par. Again, I kind of question these bits of fairway. If we end up there, we're blocked out by tee and bunker. We're finishing on 2 really. That's a challenging as hell pin. Again, like, there's not. Although there is a lot of width, you can't really miss it here. You can't miss it here. Laying up really takes the green out of play in 2. Not the worst thing in the world, for sure. But it's adding some challenge. Okay. I mean, it's a really fun shot, and I love this little funnel on the neck coming. I just think it's for the. Ultimately, I like the course. I just think it's for the wrong contest. That might do it. Oh, go on. Just a bit too hard. But that's a really fun shot. I enjoy that. And the pin is, again, kind of, it's got enough there to tempt you. And this use of like these contours really tempt me to go for a shot that I just wouldn't if it was all flat. So that's a good use of helping contours to make me take on more risk, I think. Oh, we've got a putt we need to hole. No! A great look down the coast again. Rush the putt. Shame. Well, the level par dream may have been crushed, but what a ride it was. Okay, so summary then. Let's have a look at the scorecard. Now you'll see actually hit decent amount of fairways, greens less so. +1's obviously disappointing, and we can put a lot of that down to also, well, a bit of it down to taking the unplayable on 13. But you can see where the course started to get really tough. And I think the main thing for me is if you miss position A1 off the tee, it's very much a second shot course, but you have to be in the fairway to have a go at those greens. And it's just very penal, which doesn't really lend itself well to CC design. Penal being, here's the shot, hit it, you're punished if you don't, rather than strategic, which is, here's the ideal place to land, but you still got a shot from hit this side, but it's harder. And I think that's kind of what this needed. What this really needed was just a, if you don't hit position A1, how am I helping you get back in the hole or find an alternate route? And it doesn't really have that so much. That said, I mean, 4 under through 7, it is scoreable, but you have to be on your game. And I do think it is a little easier than it looks in places. I do definitely put a lot of my bad scores down. They're all on me, but it's, if you're hitting a bad shot, you are 100% getting punished on this course. In some cases, very, very severely. Now, that said, what do I really like about it? Well, I think the environment's really cool. I think the plot itself is great. A lot of the hole designs I will really remember, like 1 and 2 stick in my memory, and started this playthrough a while ago. I've had to pause it a couple of times. But 1, the really downhill shot, 2, the really uphill, 4, that kind of massive dogleg around the trees. 6, I want to say, was the one that kind of doglegs back downhill sharply to the right and kind of plays that downhill approach. Was a really cool hole as well. 7 was that par 5 that was tucked in the dunes with a little bowl in front. 8 was the kind of triangle sort of shaped par 3 that was overlooking parts of the rest of the course. Or was 5 was the really tiny, short, small par 3. Like you can see, even the front 9, which I played probably at this point about 25 minutes ago, a lot of it still sticks in my head. And then the closing stretch, like 17 the drive ball 4, 18 the coastal par 5, I think those are really, really close. They're just a bit severe. 16 certainly very severe. And 13 again for the long par 4, I think we need a bit. I mean, it's hard to say because I took myself out of it, but even with that one on a long par 4, it's a very forced carry to the green. Like I'd have allowed a bit more space left on that green so that even if you're in trouble, you've still got a chance of running a ball up. It's kind of all carried to the green and then what you can do from there. I do feel like the lighting was a late change, and I'd be interested to know if you designed the greens in 21 as well. I feel like you probably did, and you probably changed the lighting in this game. I would guess at seeing how the trees looked in sunlight, because they're not great. Because I feel like the colour grasses you put down were not planted with that lighting in mind. Otherwise, what else was there? I think the scale of the dunes is really, really cool. The use of elevation change is fun. Like there's a lot of shots from here that I'll definitely remember because it is very in your face. Just maybe one for a different contest and probably a different tour, and that's what's going to really hold it back for me. But as ever with your stuff, like there's so much I really enjoy and it always sticks with me, and there's always stuff I really like. So thank you very much for the course. Best luck with the contest and see you again soon.